I've been in this game for over a decade, and I've seen the truth that real estate agents will never tell you. Why? Because if you did know, you'd be asking the right questions. The truth will save you time, money, and regrets. Watch this video if you're looking to buy or sell property in Spain. Right, so welcome back. Welcome back to the High Homes channel. This video has never been done before, and that's the reason we wanted to do it first. We want to showcase and show everyone out there what the reality of real estate's like. And what we're going to be covering in this video is actually quite in depth. So we're going to start talking about the different kind of agents and agencies, buyer agents versus selling agents, regulations versus associations. And then we're going to be talking about money, commissions, who pays them, your ticket value as a buyer, your ticket value as a seller, my experience, and why businesses in real estate should work with moral and ethics grounds. Then we're going to be talking about experience. Agents' attitude versus experience, weaknesses versus strengths, examples that we've had at High Homes, and then we'll finish with our advice. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. So let's start talking about the type of agencies and agents. It sounds simple, but it's very important to sort of remark the kind of types that exist. You have agents, which are freelance, they work by themselves, and then you've got agencies, which are companies that have a whole lot of agents that work within the agency. And then if you break it down further, you've got agents and agencies that specialize on helping buyers and agencies that specialize on helping vendors. And they're two different beasts. One of the interesting things about the Spanish real estate market is that Spain is very unregulated when it comes to real estate. That means that anyone can be a real estate agent. Do you want to start selling property in Spain? Great. You just need to become self-employed, create a Spanish SL company or whatever sort of structure you want to set up. And congratulations, you are a real estate agent. That is the reality. Agencies that are more established in the market tend to associate themselves with bigger associations. So there's many associations all over Spain. For example, HIPE, LPA, we'll put a few in the description below. These associations are associations that exist because this market's unregulated and because agencies want a minimum standard of service. So these associations serve as a principle of, hey, we work ethics and we work morals in the same way. We are not regulated, but this is the best practice. So we've got the type of agents and agencies out the way, and yes, that is a very simplified explanation of the kind of agents and agencies, but I want to get into the juicy facts, which you guys want to know, and the important part. So let's talk about money. How do agents and agencies get paid? Well, agents and agencies get paid commissions on the sales price. So generally speaking, if you open Idealista and you scroll through all the listings available, built into these sales prices are sales commissions. And these sales commissions in Spain vary depending where you are. So it's not the same to sell a property in Madrid than it is to sell a property in Murcia, Alicante, or Malaga. But generally speaking, we can say that sales commissions range between 2 to 6%. Yes, very different to Northern Europe, where in the UK, for example, people are used to paying 1 or 1.5%. So who pays this price? It's always the vendor. The vendors pay these commissions. So quick analysis. If you're buying a 500k property, the sales commission to an agency is anywhere between 12,000 euros up to 25,000 euros. Now think of that as your ticket price. So if you're a vendor coming to market and you've got a 500k property, that means your ticket price for the agency is 25,000 euros. But the same applies to a buyer. So if you're coming to the market and you want to be navigated through the market, you want someone to hold your hand and show you what's available, obviously offer value, we'll talk about that in a moment, your ticket price to that agency or to that agent is exactly the same. So if you're buying a 500k property, your ticket value is up to 25 grand. If you're working with an agent within the agency, they typically take a percentage from the overall gross commission, which is around 30 to 40% generally in Spain. So this is a great moment to talk about agent value. I did a tweet or a thread this morning. I really believe that, you know, when someone's making 5 figures, they need to be offering value. So let's talk about this. Yes, agencies in Spain make 5 figures on transactions depending on the sales price. I'm not going to go down what the costs are because the reality is agencies do have a hell of a lot of cost, but this discussion is not really about the profitability of real estate businesses, rather the truth behind the scenes and how much real estate agents make. So it's actually very interesting for you to put yourself a ticket price on your piece of business. So if you're coming to market, remember you have a ticket price and remember what your ticket price is. Now, let's talk value, and we'll cover this in a bit when I talk about experience and what agents should be bringing. But agencies or agents need to offer value to either the vendor or the buyer. I'm going to give you guys a very quick example that happened to me a few weeks ago. So I had a client of ours, a high homes client, that came over to buy a property in Estepona. This client, we arranged a tour. We were going to see around 10 properties. Long story short, one of the properties that he wanted to see was one of the properties he chose in Idealista. It was a lovely 3-bed apartment duplex in Costa Galera. For you, those of you that don't know this, Costa Galera in Estepona, it has always traditionally been the cheaper area of the city, right? This property in particular was for sale at 450,000 euros. And when we went into the property, it was beautifully decorated, beautifully furnished, lovely wallpaper and this and the other. The client walked in and said, "Oh my God, I absolutely love it. It's fantastic. I really, really want to buy this property. It fits all the criteria. My wife is going to like it," because the wife was not there at that moment. And I didn't really say anything at that moment. I wanted to make sure that we finished the viewing. And then when I got in the car and he'd already seen the property and gave me all of his feedback, I said, "Hey, I got to break it to you. This property is lovely, but it's got a hell of a lot of lipstick." What do I mean by that? That means that I know the development very well. I know the complex very well. I know all the properties are finished with the same tiling, same bathroom, same, bathroom fittings. Nearly everything is the same. This property was very well finished. What I mean by that with a very good interior design, very good wallpaper, very good furnishing, and very good interiors in general, they made it look absolutely spectacular. If I showed you the property in question and a standard property next door, you would not believe it's in the same complex. So when we sat in the car, I said, "Hey, I hate to break it to you, but this is my job," right? The property you're buying at 450, I can get you the same property without the lipstick, without the makeup, right, for around 300,000 euros. Now, just listen to that, 300,000 euros. It's my job to tell him that as a buyer agent in my case. Why? Because if you buy any property on this line of the urbanization for 300,000 euros, you add purchase costs at around 10%, so 330,000 euros, and then you spend 40K, go crazy, spend 40K, upgrading the property and bring it to that standard, which is easily possible. Your total investment will be around the 370K. 370K compared to 450K, that's a difference of 80,000 euros, depending how much you spend on it. Now, that is value. When we say, how much value do you bring to the table as an agent, that's a perfect example. That's just a recent example. But that's what buyers should be looking for. So yes, the answer is agents do make money on a transaction of 300,000 euros or 400,000 euros. Me as an agent, High Homes, or agent with an agency, our agency will make anywhere between 12 to 20,000 euros. And you go, wow, that's a lot of money. But my question to you is, if I'm giving you the value to save money, for example, in this case, who's getting more value out of who? That is the question to be asked, right? And I think that's the key example of value in a real estate transaction. I got my client, in this case, to potentially save 70,000 euros. And yes, he bought a property. We made our money, but there was an exchange of value. And that's the key part of this business. So while we're on the topic of money, I think buyers and sellers need to always understand, that real estate agencies are a business, ourselves. Yes, we are a business. We are here to make money. What makes a difference between good agents and regular agents and worse agents is their policy and how they run their business. If you ask me, yes, we are a business, but above making money, it needs to be win-win for everyone. So you guys need to win by, let's say, having achieved your goals, succeeding in your property transaction if you're buying or selling. If you win, I win. If my clients come first, that is the right mentality. As my dad would say, it's not about doing business with one person once. It's about doing continuing business for a very long time and many pieces of business with the same person for the rest of your life. Let's talk about experience, right? Why is experience important? Now, this is a really, really interesting one. You'll find that in general or in many real estate markets in Spain, you will approach agencies and those agencies will have juniors or have real estate agents that don't have much experience. So I'm asking you a question. What do you think is more important, attitude or experience? I think the answer is it depends. It depends who you're working with. If you're working with a junior in an agency that backs him up and that agent might not have a lot of ground experience, right, but does have the right attitude, that person with less experience and more attitude might be able to give you a better service than the person that's got more experience and less attitude. And I've seen this over and over again with both freelancers and agents within an agency. Something else is weaknesses versus strengths. I think that a lot of agents try to say, I'm good at everything. And, honesty is the ultimate virtue. Yes, agents can specialize in many things, but the reality is there are some agents that have strengths in certain areas and weaknesses in others. I think for a buyer or a seller, it's very important to understand what weaknesses and what strengths that agent has. What kind of properties are they used to selling? What kind of areas are they used to covering? What kind of price ranges are they used to working with? That is the ultimate, way to understand if your search or your property you're selling is in the right hands. Agents trade their time and energy for their sales commission. That's the reality, right? So an agent will always trade their time and energy in order to get their ultimate, let's say, sale, which is a commission. So you as a buyer, you need to understand that, an agent that's really involved in the long game is an agent that really looks after their buyers, or sellers for that matter, with a win-win mentality. Let me give you guys an example. And this is the example I use when we are hiring people at my own agency. If I'm Iberia, British Airways, Vueling, any of these airways, and I'm looking to hire a pilot, someone to work in one of our aircrafts, I will ask them one question. The question is, how many flight hours do you have, right? And they'll normally look for someone that has 15,000 hours flight time. So similar to that, and the piece of advice to you is that's what I ask our agents when we are in the hiring process. How many sales have you done? From those sales, how many sales were buyer sales and how many sales were the vendor sales? And the reason I ask that is we have people turn up and they go, well, only 5, right? Or none, or 60, or 100. If you've done 100 sales in your entire real estate career, so if you've been in real estate for 10 years and you do 15 sales a year, for example, and that equates to 100 sales in that period, just an example, that means that you've gone through 100 buyers, 100 sellers, 100 individual challenges to make that cross the line. Those moments are what's going to forge your character in the business, and it's what's going to make you better and have more experience and know how to overcome challenges. So every hour of flight time, aka every sale you've done, represents you overcoming challenges. So that's a really interesting one that, you can take a page out my book and use that when you're speaking to an agent. Ask the question, how many sales have you done? How many sales have you represented a buyer with? How many sales have you represented a seller with? Going back to us hiring, we've hired people which have those 100 hours flight time. We've also hired people that don't have 100-hour flight time, but have the right attitude. And that's fine. If you have someone that has the right attitude and is backed by a company that has the right experience, that works too. Piece of advice. Having been in real estate for over a decade, I'm going to give you my top advice on how you can find that perfect agent or agency in Spain, whether you're looking to buy a property in Murcia, Alicante, Madrid, Andalucía, in our beautiful Costa del Sol. Right, so let me give you my advice. My advice would be choose the right agent, right? Or choose the right agent within an agency. So if you're looking to buy a property in Murcia, Alicante, or you're looking to buy a property in beautiful Malaga, Costa del Sol, wherever you're looking to buy a property in Spain, do your homework, find an agent that you can speak to and communicate clearly with. Now, let me tell you something. If you're on the buyer side or on the seller side, no matter what you're doing, if you're buying or selling property, but let's say you're buying property, you're going to spend a hell of a lot of time with your agent. So you better get along with him, because this person is going to be spending a lot of time with you in the car, driving around, by email, phone calls, and wait until you find the property. Once you find the property, you're going to get into negotiations, you're going to get into due diligence, paperwork. So you're going to spend some time with him. Make sure that you click. If you don't have a click, you might want to find someone you can have a click with. Just a piece of advice. Number 2, attitude. I think attitude always wins. Attitude is the most important part of, let's say, the entire puzzle. If you have an agent, the ideal agent is an agent that has the right attitude and has the right experience. That goes without saying. But if you have an agent which has the right attitude, less experience, and is openly saying that to you, that's great. What you don't want is an agent that tells you he has a lot of experience when he doesn't really. Transparency is key. So if he tells you, hey, I've only done 4 sales, I don't know this, but I'll figure it out. My attitude is I want to help you. That's the right agent. If an agent's telling you, yes, I want to help you and I want to do this and I've got all the experience in the world, and things don't check out, it doesn't seem like you has experience, that's sort of a red flag. Truth and transparency is really key in this game, especially when you're trusting massive amounts of money and massive investments onto, someone's shoulder, like in this case, an agent or a buyer agent or a seller agent. So going back to the elephant in the room, or going back to, the money side of things, think ticket value, right? So, if someone is, just understand the agent. Maybe actually top advice for you is understand what's in it for the agent. So now you can do your maths on financials, depending on your budget or depending on the property value. You now know what the ticket price is for the agency. And I might add that if you're working with an agent within the agency, they typically, take a percentage from the overall gross commission, which is around 30 to 40% generally in Spain. So you can calculate it backwards. If your ticket price is 25,000 euros, your ticket price for the agent is around 5,000-6,000 euros. Okay, that's what you're worth to the agent. Now you know what your ticket value is to the agent and the agency. Make sure that you're getting the value. If he has the right attitude, if he has the right experience, I will leave that down to your gut feeling. Transparency is key. Communicate directly with the person you're working with. Ask the right questions and don't be afraid to ask the hard ones. Ask the question of, how much money are you making from this transaction? It's absolutely fine to ask that question. Actually, I think agents need to be super transparent with clients, going, hey, if you buy a property with me, this is what I'm going to be making, and this is the value I want to offer you in order for you to buy a property with me, right? My ethos and the ethos of most of the agents of, for example, the LPA, which is the leading property association of which my agency belongs in, is like, if I'm not offering you value, I don't want to be part of the transaction. It's as simple as that. Obviously, before you commit to buying or selling with an agency, do your research online, check their reviews, check their testimonials on their website, check their testimonials on Trustpilot, check their testimonials on Google. Ask yourself always, am I getting value from this agent? So guys, I really spilled my guts about the inside of agents and agencies, the things that you should know about that you don't know about, and the things agents should talk about that, in my opinion, don't talk enough about. And I hope you enjoyed this content. So as always, if you find this content useful, I would really appreciate a like on the video. And I would also love to hear your comments about other topics you'd like us to discuss without any sort of filters, the reality your way. Comment below what you'd like us to talk about. And remember, in real estate in Spain, knowledge is your best investment. Guys, hasta luego.